Welcome to Source Not Found, a podcast about the worst versions of your favorite things. Every other week, we examine a IP, franchise, or fandom solely through its spin-offs, side projects, or sequels. Basically, anything but the source material. My name is Beau Woodall, and I'm an ironclad battle tactic.
And I'm Brandon June, and I believe in my own justice.
I knew you were going to go for that one.
It was between that and Let's Party!
Or You Guys Are Roast Chicken. Love that one too.
I knew I was in for a treat, and then just that first cinematic, the mech bursting out of the White House with the Let's Party. Like, oh. I knew I was in for a treat, but now I'm aware just how much.
Yeah, man.
This is a fun ride. We're doing Metal Wolf Chaos.
Yeah.
Y'all might not know this one. It's a less well-known game in the From Software stable of franchises.
You may recognize the name FromSoft from Armored Core, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, just to name a few.
They're good shit.
Yeah, they're really, really good
They're
stuff.
More artistic. They have a long storied history, and they have dabbled in a lot of different genres and sort of styles of game design.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really pin them down. Now they're sort of like in this post-Demon Souls era.
Yeah, mechs and souls. That's what they're known for, mechs and souls.
But they've done some wacky stuff, and especially in this era.
2004.
And especially on 2004 for this one. They have another one like Ninja Blade, which is another really goofy like Ninja Gaiden, sort of off-brand Ninja Gaiden, basically.
Directly connected to this game as well.
Yeah. On Xbox specifically. So Xbox has never really made much headway in Japan. These days, if you're to go into a game store, like there is maybe an end cap of like all their Xbox stuff in a game store, you know, like their Series S.
I did not know that. I mean, I figured Sony and Nintendo were a bigger thing, but damn.
They've got it on lock. I mean, Japan in general, you think of it as the homeland of all of these major game developers.
Yeah.
And it is, but then Japanese gamers at large are mostly on mobile. Like when you look at the percentage of the market, like where they're doing most of their game time, like Switch has definitely helped. And like there's a huge community of gamers here, but the vast majority of them are on mobile.
So this is a little bit of a tangent from what we're covering today, but I feel like I should ask, do you think that's why Netflix is picking up so many really, really great games for their catalog on mobile only? Have you seen these things? Like
I have
you can play
yet to engage with it.
You can play like Curse of the Golden Idol and Into the Breach if you have a Netflix account for free mobily.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got Into the Breach on my cell phone. Like it's a really, really cool roguelite, and I can just use my Netflix account and play this really clever game. Like it's wild.
Yeah, not just I wouldn't say just because of anything going on in Japan. I think just worldwide. I think it's funny. Like, I'm a gamer. I spend a lot of time engaging with the hobby and the medium and thinking about it. And yet there are these major areas and really like some of the communities, some of the games where like most people, like the biggest proportion of gamers are spending their time with the hobby are like Clash of Clans, League of Legends, like just these games that I've never touched Dota 2. I don't play anything on mobile. I've never engaged with like so many of these games that are millions of people are playing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget that like that actually, if you were to run the numbers, that's where most of the industry is making its money. And that's where most of the hours are logged. Like we're over here playing Metal Wolf Chaos. We're playing like an Xbox game from 2004.
Well, see, that's what amazes me is like I played Clash of Clans. You remember? I was playing with some of our other roommates and some other friends. I played Clash of Clans hard. What pulled me away is when the meta became more important than the game. And that seems to be a thing in mobile games often, where especially if there are these massive millions of people playing them, you have a lot of PvP, the meta becomes toxic in a way. Like it is easy to create a toxic meta within some of these games when so many people play and they all have their own individual ways of playing. Where some of these other games that people like Netflix are picking up, these are console games being put on mobile. That's what I would prefer. Like you give me a good game that I can play on my phone. I don't need a game that can only be played on my phone with, millions of other people who eventually are like, oh my God, you still use Wizards and Dragons? Get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, but I like my Wizards and Dragons. Why are you making fun of me for playing a game?
Yeah, but I think ultimately it just might be a fool's errand. I mean, because I've seen this recently, this push, right? We've seen it, like you're saying, with Netflix. They just put Resident Evil 7 on mobile. Like, you can play it on your iPhone now. And I was seeing, like a couple thousand people in total have purchased that.
Yeah.
Because you're wanting people to pay, like, full price for a console game and play it that way. It's, like, the worst possible way I could conceive of engaging with that experience, right? It's crazy to me. But you see, like, companies recognizing, like, this is where the money's at. This is where most people play games. But I think a lot of these experiences just don't translate. And that's why it's interesting to me, like I was saying. All the conversations that I have around this hobby, around this medium, we talk about, like, the biggest games of the year and, like, the most meaningful experiences. And, like, we can convince ourselves that that's what most people were playing this year. Most people are like, isn't everyone playing this Elden Ring DLC? Like, no. I mean, it's successful for sure.
But most people are playing Honkai Star Rail.
Some gacha game, on mobile. And so similarly, that's what was going on with Metal Wolf Chaos, with From Software, like Microsoft going to this Japanese developer and saying, hey, nobody's buying this Xbox. We're trying to break into your market. What do you got for us? Like, can we have some kind of partnership going here?
Wait, and this was their answer?
Yes.
Holy shit. All right.
This was a partnership. This was an exclusive title for the Xbox in Japan. It never got released in the West.
Right.
It was Japan only until the remaster, which is how we both played it, in 2019. So it was a Japan only Xbox exclusive from Software as a way of maybe getting Japanese players interested in the Xbox. Gonna go ahead and say it failed.
I was just gonna say, one of my favorite things that I read, and I don't know how true this is, I could almost do a trivia corner for this game. There is some buck wild shit about it, but it was never in Japanese. It was always recorded in English.
Yeah. They did this for, if you play, I have physical copies of a lot of the Armored Core series.
Right.
The Japanese copies. And that's how I've played most of them. And it's weird. It was very jarring to, like, play Armored Core 2 on the PS2. And all of the vocal tracks, all of the audio is in English. Like, the rest of the game is all in Japanese. The menus, well, actually, Armored Core is pretty good about having English in the menus. But all the subtitles, all the cinematics, everything is transcribed into Japanese text. But we have this English vocal track. And way overacting. In, like, a different way. Like, this game had bad voice acting. But in a very strange way.
So before we, as listeners, if this is your first time listening to an episode where we cover a video game, we cover video games on 5 different main points: narrative structure, gameplay, visuals, sound, and fun factor. We score them up to a 10, and then at the end of that, we have 100 points, and we grade the game. That's how we work with video games. Before we jump into narrative structure, can I just say the fact that this was written to be performed as English only blows my mind. I would have sworn this was a badly translated script.
Yeah.
It just is baffling to me, especially when you look at how much lore FromSoft normally is able to play with. The worlds of Demon Souls and Dark Souls that FromSoft has been fooling around with for literal decades is vibrant and rich and beautiful and terrifying a little bit. And this is none of those things.
It is, yeah. It's funny to like, and we've both been playing the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, and it's so wild to just see this developer and like, they've really honed this way of storytelling. Like, oh, you have to piece things together, read item descriptions, really pay attention to little random snippets of dialogue from some NPC in a cave somewhere and piece that together with what you found over here. And then here it's just like, bombastic, ridiculous cinematics, just giving you all the story. There's no subtext. You have the president of the United States surfing a piece of space station shrapnel down to the planet. It's just wild in a very fun way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It is very, very fun. Well, I mean, you'll hear about that a little bit later.
It was a fun follow-up we just did, for anyone that missed it, last episode, Starship Troopers. This month, we are sourcing America. It is July. We've been sourcing America by way of non-Americans, as we usually do, trying to like bury the source or distance ourselves from the source. So
yeah.
We had Starship Troopers brought to you by a non-American director. We have Metal Wolf Chaos America brought to you by a non-American developer from software, Japanese game dev.
And goodness gracious, how differently they are seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get into that.
Kinda.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Kinda.
Let's talk about the overall game first.
Sure.
Let's jump right into narrative structure and let's talk about what this game is.
Sure. So I'll just go ahead and say I gave narrative a 9.
Really?
Yeah.
I gave it a 7.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Anyone that hasn't played this one, I'm just going to set the stage. This is the intro. This is the first thing you see. By the end of the first quarter of the 21st century, freedom was dead in America. Beginning with a large-scale military coup d'etat that erupted in various cities throughout the nation, the rebels seized power in all the central institutions of government. The entire nation appeared to have fallen completely into the hands of the coup d'etat forces. However, one final hope in opposing the coup d'etat forces remained. This final hope being the U.S. president himself. Michael Wilson, the 47th president of the United States, equipped with a special mobile armored ops suit developed in secret by the military, boldly waged his own personal war alone to take back America's freedom. So yes, in this game, you are playing as the U.S. president in a giant mech suit, fighting rebel forces that are led by your former VP, now autocratic tyrant taking over control of America.
Richard Hawke. Yeah.
Richard Hawke, who kind of looks like if Willem Dafoe had decided to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah, kinda.
Instead of a serious actor.
I do just there's going to be trivia corner snippets that I'm going to toss in. Yeah. So you just prepare yourself for that.
Let's do it.
The character you play, Michael Wilson, is descendant directly from Woodrow Wilson, apparently. A great-great-grandchild.
Didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I not read an item description somewhere?
Yeah, sure. There are no item descriptions, my dude. Not in this game. He's also not alone. He's not. He has a secretary.
Jody
is what she is called. Did you get, just with Jody?
Yeah.
Did you get Resident Evil 4 vibes? Like Hunnigan?
Oh, I can't say that I did. No.
Oh, see, that's
maybe I was too enamored with her story about finding the last box of candy, dusty box of candy, way in the back of the supermarket.
And it wasn't expired yet, Brandon. It was not expired yet. I also
we gotta find these moments of joy when we're losing the country to just rebel forces.
She also completely shut him down when he hit on her, which I thought was beautiful.
It was. She's a great character. They have a very funny dynamic. It's weird. It's so hard to pin it down, but it's weird in just the ways that something written by Japanese creators, it can only be weird in that way. Like an American could never intentionally make something weird in quite this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I see this a lot because I live in Japan. You see clothing and tote bags or whatever with English phrases. And it's just like, it's always off. Like the syntax is just a little weird, or they phrase something with like a passive voice. And it's just like an American would never phrase it this way.
Right.
But I don't know that an American could intentionally try and phrase it this way. If they tried to make it wrong, it'd be wrong in a different way, in a more like obviously intentional way.
Right. Know? Yeah. Okay. So I think you gave it a 9. So I feel like I should probably explain myself, or you should explain yourself, because that to me,
who has more to answer for?
Honestly,
you wanna go ahead, go for it.
Yeah, sure. I'll give it a try. It's so you gave a pretty good rundown of the beginning of the game, the rest of the game is you starting on the West Coast. Well, you start at the White House, and then you go all the way to the West Coast, and you have to fight your way back to the White House, liberating cities one city at a time.
And it is like America's greatest hits. You got Vegas, you got the Grand Canyon, you got the Old West.
Yeah.
You know, you go to New York.
And you've got Houston.
Yeah.
I don't know. The story, this game is short. I don't know how long it took you to finish. I think I had it done in like 4.5 hours.
Oh, I wasn't that fast. I did stream it though, which check out our YouTube. All the playthrough will be up. It's a good time. Yeah, I did 4 streams to varying lengths, but I want to say I was in and out, and I want like 6 to 8 hours. Like I replayed some missions, and
I should have. I'll get to that in gameplay.
Yeah.
I should have replayed missions, but I just look, the storyline is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted so much more because it's a FromSoft game. I didn't know what I was walking into. All I knew was my experience with FromSoft, with Armored Core, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring. That's all I knew walking in. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm a president in a mech suit. This story is probably going to be insane. It is not. It is Air Force One, but with mechs. Like, President Michael Wilson basically just says, get off my plane, but in regards to the whole country. Like,
yeah.
And I had to give it a lower score because the writing felt so uncomfortably awkward. Like you said, it was English syntax in the way a native English speaker would never write it. Like it was the uncanny valley of linguistics.
Yeah, and just the topics of conversation, what people choose to talk about in the midst of these missions, it's just so wonderfully weird.
The regular reoccurring statement of, do you want to know why? Because I am the president of the United States of America. And it's like, buddy, we know, man.
Maybe I should just jump to it. Like, this encapsulates it. I pulled this out. Basically, you are taking back the country from west to east. You eventually go to space. You have the showdown with your VP. You defeat all the rebels, and the final scene is you, Michael Wilson, the president, addressing all of these, like the military basically assembled out on the lawn of the White House, and you're giving your rousing capstone speech to the experience.
Oh, I'm so glad you pulled this. Otherwise, I was going to.
Yeah, it goes a little something like this. My fellow Americans, good morning. As Americans, we love freedom. But true freedom isn't a given, like the air we breathe or the water we drink. About 240 years ago, our forefathers fought greatly, giving their blood, sweat, and tears. And in the end, they won our freedom. And we must never forget this. If anything appears that threatens our belief in this freedom, we will oppose it. We will crush it. In fighting to gain our freedom, we need no reasons. We require no just cause or flowery words. In order to protect our neighbors who love freedom and this faith in freedom, we continue to believe in our own justice. We won't abandon any battles. And the reason is because we are all citizens of the United States of America. And as long as you will allow it, I will be a vanguard leading this fight. And the reason is because I'm the president of this great United States of America.
So that's great.
And the reason is, yeah, it's like little things like that, you know? Like to have that repetition of that unnecessary lead in to the thought.
I would also like to share something, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And
go for it.
This is one of the reasons that I docked a couple of points.
Sure.
Every time you accomplish something big as President Michael Wilson, who, like, in canon, is actually the son of the boss from Ninja Blade.
Yeah, I saw the Michael Wilson connection with Ninja Blade, like playing through that. There's a character, Michael Wilson,
Yeah, it's his it's his dad.
And you can actually shoot the dad's statue. Did you do this as like an Easter egg in Metal Wolf Chaos?
No.
If you go to the White House and shoot the statue of the father out front, you basically have like some dialogue related to him feeling guilty, and
oh, that's cute.
The dad comes into play there. Yeah. But okay, yeah. I wasn't quite clear on that. That's awesome.
So every time you accomplish something relatively important, whether it's finishing a certain number of missions or liberating a certain area of the country or whatever, there is a report by DNN.
Yes.
It's their news network. And I would... this is one of their last anti-President Michael Wilson, a.k.a. Metal Wolf, announcements.
And just to set it up, like basically as you're playing and doing all these missions to take back the country, you are in between missions given these they kind of function like the Starship Troopers, like propaganda segments. Almost like you get
it really felt the same way. I'm doing my part.
Yeah, like Metal Wolf Chaos Unleashed, this rogue president causing terrorism across our great country here.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to really struggle to not laugh while reading this, but I'm going to try.
And that's why I gave it a 9. Yes.
Dear fellow Americans, good evening. This is an announcement from the Government Policy Promotion Department, where the password is no more Metal Wolf. Metal Wolf, who escaped from military custody through cruel trickery, continues to agitate various parts of the country. Sympathizers to these acts appear to be on the rise. As an American, this is most regrettable. Please try to remember the names and faces of any of the ringleaders who instigated this terrorism. A heart of justice is a heart that loves America. Surrender now while your crimes are still not so serious. But if you refuse surrender, based on Article 48, Clause 4 of the newly enacted U.S. Constitution, Metal Wolf sympathizers and or any blood relatives, sorry, this word gets me, and or any blood relatives removed 4 times or less, as well as schoolmates in all educational institutions such as high schools and universities, as well as any co-workers or associates or any and all related people, a public execution will be carried out. So to any terrorist sympathizers, if an ounce of justice still remains in you, give up on that man and surrender by 5 p.m. today. This is our final ultimatum. This has been an announcement from the Government Policy Promotion Department, where the password is "We love Richard Hawk."
Yeah, that's just so funny just to hear you say it. And we're not even like to watch that as like a newsreel, as a propaganda newsreel was a lot of fun.
It's so fun. But again, the weird, uncanny linguistic valley that I felt in for the entire game was, it wasn't uncomfortable, but it felt like there was a small pebble in my shoe, but in my brain the entire time. Like, there are times I genuinely laughed out loud, and that was one of them. The whole going from relatives no more than 4 times removed to classmates to coworkers or any other related people. Like, it's absolutely unhinged.
Yeah. And I think where that kind of is exactly why I rated it so highly, for the exact same reasons. I just feel very different. I guess I like the pebble in my shoe. It's weird in like such a, you laughed out loud a few times. I laughed out loud constantly. This is the level of fun I wanted in Starship Troopers. Like Starship Troopers at the moments when it was most fun and funny and kind of like ridiculous in a satirical way. Like, that's how this game felt the whole way through.
I will give you that. I will completely agree that this game is what every B action movie aspires to be, but in a video game form.
It's just so ridiculous. And it kind of oscillates between over the top to such a degree, like surfing down through space,
Yeah.
Like I said, on like a piece of a space station, to just the speech I read at the finale of the game. It's bad. It's ridiculous. There's like, I don't know how many times you say freedom just in that one. Like, I needed a freedom counter playing this game. How many times it came up. But also, like, if you told me George W. Bush made that speech, I would just kind of say, oh, yeah, I can see it. It's like, it's made a little bit more ridiculous, but like not too far removed from 2004 era America. Like when this game came out, like it is a crime that it never came to America or really like outside of Japan, because it is one of the funniest and spot on Bush era America satires
ever. It is. If this would have been around in 2004, I would have loved this game. I mean, I do. Spoilers, I do love this game. It's very, very fun. But most of my fun does not come from the story. It comes from the kind of... It's like it's trying to be earnest with what it's doing, but coming across as a satire of itself at the same time and still embracing it. Mm-hmm. Like every time you start a mission and it gives you a code name for the mission, they are increasingly bad.
They are.
When you go to New York, I think the mission is just the code name for this mission, Mr. President, is Mission We Love New York. And it's like the t-shirt. The t-shirt is I Love New York.
My Sweet Clementine or something like that.
Yeah, that's
you remember?
That's the Texas one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're not good.
And then no, I'm saving that for fun factor because it's just too fucking funny. I don't know. That's why I did a 7. Like, it certainly passes. The story is cogent.
Yeah.
But the story is not the driving force of what makes me enjoy this game.
And I would say that it is for me.
Sure.
And I definitely, like, all your criticisms are valid. Like, is it a 9 out of 10 in quality? No. It's just like this perfect thing. Like, I don't know what's intentional and what is just like bad because it's bad, like badly written. What is a translation issue? What is like intentionally like winking at the camera? And that's my favorite sort of satirical experience. Like, I don't really know where the satire ends and where it begins, but it so perfectly just functions as a ridiculous, like looking at America through a funhouse mirror in this era, like looking at the militarism, just like playing with the actual reality of in that era. Like, why do we do the things we do? Because freedom, because democracy,
because we believe in our own justice, Brandon. We believe in our own justice.
We believe in our own justice. It's like that circular logic. And like,
because I'm the president of the United States of America, Brandon.
Yeah. And it's like that kind of is encapsulating like the general era of America and like what our government was doing and how it felt in that time. Like, it just was so spot on to me, like that kind of circular logic. Like, why? Because freedom. Why freedom? Because we said so. Like, why are we going to war? We don't need any reasons, because freedom.
No, it
was just very funny.
I really think it's
funny.
Why?
Yeah.
Because freedom. But why? Because justice. But why? Because we're Americans. But why? Because freedom. Like, it's just those three ideas.
Because I'm the president of America.
Yeah.
And the reason is
freedom. Yeah. It's just reduce, reuse, recycle, but freedom, justice, America.
And it is very funny. Like, we grow up in the culture, but like to look at it from the outside, like a lot of it looks like professional wrestling. A lot of it looks like just Hollywood bombast. And yeah, to just kind of like turn it up just a little bit and play with it like on the fringes and like put it all in this ridiculous mecha package.
Right. Yeah.
And like, yeah, that it really is like insightful to see. Like, I think that is how America looks to a lot of the world.
Would not surprise me even remotely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've been outside the country for a while, and yeah. And so I think kind of the exact opposite of what I had to say last episode about Starship Troopers. Like, this just hit for me. It was just entertaining and funny. Like, this is like, I would sit down and replay this.
I probably am going to.
Yeah. Enjoy it on the satirical level, and just enjoy it also, like, if I don't think about that side of it, it's just it's like a fun arcadey experience, like in terms of narrative as well. It's just turned up to 11, a lot of explosions, a lot of funny dialogue, and I like the weirdness. But it's not good. If I were to like actually be critical and say, like, is this a well-written story? No, I'm probably closer to that 7. But because I can appreciate that part of it, yeah, I gotta stick with my 9.
So speaking of going into possibly playing it again, let's discuss gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it.
curious
What
how
did you
you
give it?
felt about gameplay. I actually gave it an 8.
I did as well.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things to say about gameplay.
Okay. To me, it was Baby's first Armored Core. Just like an arcadey take on the formula that I really love. I'm a big fan of that series.
Yeah, it's a run and gun shooter with a little bit of strategy in there, being able to find a little bit of cover every now and again. I really struggled with some of the mobility options, especially after I finished the game and then watched your Twitch stream and saw that you could boost without being in the air or use like a Super Mario Brothers ground pound ability. Didn't know you could do either of those things.
I miss those.
Yeah, no
those
idea.
Are very helpful.
Yeah, I noticed. I certainly noticed.
Yeah.
Did not know either of those were a possibility. And this is why it scores high for me, is watching your playthrough. I was so jealous of what weapons you had, and I was still able to beat the games with the weapons that I maxed out, even though they were different from yours.
So what did you go with?
I went with assault rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was assault rifles, missile launchers, and then I got the bazookas up to the one that shoots two missiles at a time.
Yeah.
Those were my two. Those, I mean, I basically, if the missile launchers would fire a little bit faster, they would have been incredible because of the locking on mechanism.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But watching your playthrough, I was like, holy shit, I made a horrible mistake.
Yeah, I played it like I play Armored Core, just like bazooks and chain guns, like as soon as possible. We're just investing everything into the bazookas, and yeah, the machine guns eventually become these gnarly chain guns.
See,
like, this is what has seen me through most of that series.
That's what sucks, man, is the early machine guns blow. Like,
yeah, it was a surprise to see them. They are
garbage. And the assault rifles, they have like better ammo, better reload, better damage. So I'm like, I'm going to stick with these assault rifles and max those bad boys out. And eventually the last one you get just says, an assault rifle built for cyborgs. Yes, cyborgs. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty good. That's very good.
That is a very FromSoft thing, to just like have weapons scale in a surprising, fun way, and just to not really know, like, it's easy to sleep on, like, oh yeah, handguns, I don't think so. Like, I don't want to use this weapon, but like, oh no, the stagger opportunities in this, or like, the way it's going to interrupt this process. Like, there are always these hidden aspects of weapons that would be easy to look past, because in other games it would just be like a starter weapon.
Right.
But if you really invest in it and stick with it and see it through, it is you can, like with the Armored Core series, there's always a way to make anything work. Sometimes it's going to require more of a skill set on the part of the player, but you can make anything work.
That's what had to happen with beating not the last boss, but facing Richard in Vegas.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
I had to give that one a couple goes.
I think that took me half of my playtime.
It's tough, and it's a long level and multiple encounters.
And I hadn't caught near the amount of energy pods you did, so my health was like 2 bars lower than yours was at the time. And
he's got that burst attack, and if he gets you with that, it doesn't really matter how much energy you have. Like, you're fucked.
I did discover, and this is so, as you fight, like right before the last level in space, you face Richard Hawk, Vice President, in a mech suit of his own, and he has an attack in the last round when you get him to his last quarter of health. I think it's quarter, give or take. That is a mimicry of your own like ultimate burst ability. If you click down both joysticks, you use a burst ability that's just like, I think President Michael Wilson even says like, come get some, and just like rockets, machine guns, you name it, it's getting launched at your enemy, whatever enemy is closest to you. He can do the same thing, except his is a lot meaner than yours. But
it's pretty mean.
Yeah. It took me 4 or 5 times to get there, but I did discover you can interrupt it with your own burst. As soon as he launches his, if you launch yours, it interrupts his completely. and it's almost a wash, and then you can go back and take him out. But
you probably definitely got to do it that way if you're not. Man, I don't know how you did that without boosting around, because I was just zipping around constantly to try and. That's the only way. Like, you got to just, once you know to look for it, because it surprised me a couple times in a row, because I just thought, oh, where'd that come from the first time? I didn't have time to really like make sense of it. Once I knew it was coming, like, okay, be ready. You're gonna have to dodge this. You're gonna have to be on the move already when it sets off, and then you can get around it just by boosting out of the way. But it's a tough one.
The amount of time I could have saved myself had I know you could use that boost ability that way is sickening. Because the other missions that I had to do twice are missions that were time sensitive. Every other mission I finished the first time. Like, first time, made it through, killed the boss, everything's kosher.
Yeah.
But the poison in Chicago, I think.
Yeah.
And the Alcatraz cannon. Those two missions, they're both timed. And I didn't realize you could boost around. So I'm just like jumping in the air and boosting in the air, getting to where I need to go. And that's not enough. I mean, I did it.
Pretty tough.
I just had to figure out the best weapons to use and try to figure out exactly like what my method was for taking things out. And man, it was rough. Some of those, trying to figure out how to do those without the like you seem to be using weapons that were the most advantageous to someone who is playing this game to beat the game, not playing this game to figure out how to play with other weapons, right? Like, I jumped in like, hey, this weapon seems good. I don't know how this is gonna go for me, so I'm just gonna play the whole way through, maxing out these couple of weapons. Come to find out, I chose the missile launchers and the assault rifles are incredibly hard to beat the game with. Like,
yeah, I guess that's my Armored Core experience coming through, where I have a lot of trouble making missile launchers work for me in general. For like a lot, like some tasks, they're just like, that is the answer. Anything else is hard to pull off. But generally, like, no, man, like cannon arms, bazookas, chain guns, like that's where I live.
Yeah.
You can get through a lot of stuff that way. Just lay out the damage as fast as possible. You can tank stuff to a certain degree, and just like, if you get up there and just unleash, when you upgrade, get those double bazooks, my God. And it's a lot of fun.
I don't have a lot of Armored Core experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't realize until I was back in New York, I think, that I could double up the same weapon in different hands.
Ooh, yeah. Always dual wielding. Yep.
I mean, I was dual wielding, but I was dual wielding different weapons. So I was like, I was basically alternating my damage types between energy weapons and main. I thought you could only have heavy arms in one hand and light arms in the other, because I didn't know any different. I didn't try. And then I'm like, oh my God, I can have bazookas in both hands? Ah, shit.
It is very FromSoft in that way, where like, here are the tools. We're not going to tell you what you should do with them, or even like how to use them beyond like the most basic of mechanics. Now just get in there and experiment. There is like some of that FromSoft DNA in here for sure. The Armored Core, like they had been making a lot of those games by the time they got to this one. So you see that in the formula, but it is, like I said, baby's first Armored Core. Like, you get to tinker with your loadout in terms of your weaponry. You're not worried about like, being overweight or like having too much energy. Like,
I really
appreciated burdening
that.
your core. Yeah, it's just like, just tinker with the guns. Don't worry about how much they weigh. You're gonna basically, you have the one mech. You're gonna play with this, and because the missions are short and sweet, and you didn't have any trouble. Like, I had to take a few of them a couple times, like especially the first time, like just not really knowing like where all the poison is, or like not knowing like in Alcatraz like the most ideal way to get through there in the time allotted to you.
Right.
But I didn't mind, because it's a couple minutes and it's like an arcade experience. It's short. There's only 13 missions in total. You get a lot of replayability by going back to these missions anyway. And if you don't like that you have, like, if you don't like the weapon that you've invested in, well, just try something else out. And you can, you got to maybe grind a little bit, replay something, get some currency. But it's not in the way that Armored Core, like, will penalize you for, like, if you fail a mission in Armored Core, you go into debt. And you also incur costs from like the ammo that you expend during a mission, right? And the damage you take. So like, I would never, like, you have to change your loadout to go get money in an armored core. Like, I'm not going to be using physical ammunition. I'm going to be using energy weapons because I'm going to pay for those bullets on the back end and make less money. Whereas here, like, no, throw on the bazookas, destroy everything in sight. There are a couple, I don't know how many. Some of the missions you can finish. There's an achievement for finishing one in 30 seconds. Which was the Old West. I did that in 30 seconds because you just have like the 3 other mechs. Like if you just go in there, decimate them with bazookas, like you're in and out in under half a minute, and you make a ton of money. And just do that a couple times and get enough to get another weapon and try it out. And it offers so much replayability in these missions to like go back through with different weapons, to look for the energy pods, to find like the fun little Easter eggs, to try and get all the hostages, save the POWs. So it's like the perfect, like,
not just hostages
experience. It
musicians.
It has a little depth.
The musicians that are forced to play ukulele for soldiers. That's a line of fucking dialogue.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I have to ask, what was your favorite mission?
You know, I had a lot of fun in Miami, taking on the battleship and like zipping around the beach.
That one was super cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. How about you?
I think it was the third to last mission. I think it was Fight House.
Fight House is fun.
Where you have 5 different points where there's a base in 5 different points, and every time you take a base out, it removes 1 danger from the paths to get to other bases. So like 1, if you defeat it, all of the energy weapons in the underground base are turned off. 1, whenever you defeat it, the amount of troops in the underground base is drastically reduced. 1, it removes all mines whenever you destroy the base. Like, I love the idea, the replayability on that one, figuring out the best way to go about. Like, okay, if I go here, it takes out the energy weapons, and then energy weapons are lining this hallway. So I can just go down this hallway, take this one out, and that one kills the mines. And if I take this hallway, that used to have mines in it. So they're gone now, and now I can go get rid of all the troops. I really, really enjoyed that one because I played it 3 or 4 times just out of sheer fun. Like, just having a good time trying to figure out exactly where I needed to go and how. And I thought that was really, really cool.
That's a fun one, and that is definitely like I've seen this one before. Like, that's an Armored Core ass mission. Like, being in some underground facility and just it's sort of like labyrinthine, making your way through, trying to find the way through to shut off something or destroy something to open up the next doorway or the next set, or like you said, take out some offensive weaponry, power that down. And then yes, you did say you said Fight House. For listeners, you fight the White House.
Yeah, you do.
You fight a giant armored cannon laden White House.
And if you hit the White House more than you hit the cannons, you lose the mission.
Right. You have to fight the White House. Well, you have to fight the Fight House that is armored over the White House. You can't hit that beautiful White House. Got to keep that. That was fun. Yeah. Honestly, I had fun with all the missions, except I wasn't crazy about Beverly Hills. That one was kind of tedious.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like that
Beverly
one
Hills, right?
too much either. Yeah. That's the one with all the bombs you had to get rid of, right?
It was generic. I mean, this is a 2004-esque game. Yeah. Like in the level design. It
noticeably
looks like it looks like a Sega game. I mean, it's like colorful. Well, we're going to do visuals, but it is definitely of that time and place for sure with some of the level design. And sometimes that can be a very good thing, right? It's like, it's just streamlined. It's like a self-contained. It's not too large. There's always a clear linear path forward, and there's a lot of action along the way. Yeah. And if you're looking for an arcade experience, that's great. But then some of them, like, they do want you to look around this sort of cityscape, and it can get kind of generic and kind of, you get a lot of like repeating alleyways, and it's just, it kind of bogs down the experience. And that was definitely a level that did that.
Yeah, agreed. Beverly Hills was it was fine. Like a lot of the missions I genuinely enjoyed. Like I found something to love about a lot of these missions. Beverly Hills was fine. Like
Yeah.
All right.
So I take it you didn't find the aliens.
No.
Yeah, you didn't find the aliens.
No.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't know. There was another streamer that was playing this game. It was funny. I was playing this like in the lead up to 4th of July, and then also on 4th of July. No one else was really playing it, and then 4th of July, like
everyone
Twitch
and
is
their
just
mother was
exploding
playing it. Yeah.
Everyone wants to play the America game on America Day. So I was in and out some other streams, and someone came in my chat, another streamer, and asked if I had found any UFOs yet, and if I had gotten into the alien subplot, and I didn't know what they were talking about. So I had to look. You do have to I think you have to save all of the hostages in the game, and then the UFOs start appearing. So I looked at that, and no, I'm not trying to do that. Maybe someday. I would like to replay it. I maybe given some time, come back to it, and oh yeah, I'll go track down all the hostages. But that's not really my thing.
If I can unlock dual Gatling guns and the bazookas that launch 4 missiles, yeah, I'm gonna go through and wreck shop. I'm just gonna be a walking weapon of mass destruction and have a really good time just whipping ass.
Yeah. It is meant to be replayed. It's a short game. The missions are short. There's a lot of, like I said, things to find. But if you don't want that, then you just treat it to me, it's the ultimate weekend rental.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if I had been able to take this home and play it on my Xbox over the weekend, and I would have finished it and then returned it, and it would have been in and out, but I just would have had a great time.
Agreed.
And it's a good time now. Yeah, it feels good. Just to speak on the remaster front, I mean, I don't really know how good the original felt. I would like to at some point play the original just to see, but it is, anyone coming in to play it for the first time, it is going to feel dated. It's a little janky, changing weapons. Some of the button presses take some getting used to.
Yeah, that
how you switch between weapons is kind of
the
clunky.
weapon wheel was a little clunk for me, but
yeah,
you get used to it after you do a couple missions.
You do, and it's nice having all those options. It's clunky, but it's because they're trying to find a way to have you be able to take in 8 different options.
I was going to say 8 or 10 weapons at a time, right?
Yeah, which is not something that Armored Core allows you to do. So that was fun. Yeah. So solid 8.
Yep, me too. How do you feel about visuals?
I gave it an 8.5.
I only gave it an 8 because and I gave it an 8. I gave it such a high score because you did say it is kind of clunky and it is dated, but god damn, it reminded me of Dreamcast.
Yes, I kept thinking that throughout.
Oh my god.
If the Dreamcast had held on a few more years as a Dreamcast-ass game, it's refreshing. You get a lot of, more so in the PS3, Xbox 360 era, but in those mid-aughts, you get a lot of muddy brown games,
Yeah.
And this was no, this is peak Midway Arcade, colorful, bright, fun color palette. I am looking, the reason it's an 8.5, I'm looking at it through the lens of 2004.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. The fact that most of the levels were so noticeably different was nice. Like you said, Beverly Hills was But for me, it wasn't just the level design. It was things like the Casperitas giant spider monster that you have to take out.
There's some cool mechs.
Some really, really cool enemy design. Even the little in the assault helicopter level, it drops little crab mines that will walk toward you and then leap and just automatically knock out a full fucking tank of your health. They were kind of cute. You're oh, what are those little, oh shit, that hurt bad. What the no. And you could notice the thing that got me visually the most, and again, one of the reasons it's an 8 is the fact that you could tell when an enemy was stronger than a version of it you had hit in the past. Enemy design was spot on. And I mean, FromSoft has always been good at that.
Yeah.
And in this case, you're oh no, these are just little soldiers I took. No, those guys have rockets. Noticeably have rockets. that's just a regular troop transport. Nope, that has a cannon on top of it. I didn't see the cannon until just now. That's a regular tank. Nope, that one has an energy beam. A noticeably different cannon mount than the M1 Abram I saw earlier. Son of a bitch. Like, it's very, very well done, and even for the time, I think well designed.
Yeah, it's just there's so much going on. It's just visual chaos, but in a very like it never feels muddy. It's always, like I said, just like brightly colored. You know exactly who is what, and like you've got your awesome Metal Wolf mech design. You got the Statue of Liberty in the background. You're like fighting on this bridge against this like monstrous mech thing. You've got, again, all the, like the U.S. military like helicopters and troop transports all over the place, and it's just such a varied color palette and like types of enemy design, where like some things are more like realistically like military vehicle designed, and some of it is just outlandish mech, and it's a really nice balance, a really nice combination.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
And the characters were fun, you know, like I said, pro wrestler Willem Dafoe as Richard Hawk. Michael Wilson, I don't know, I was getting like Michael Douglas vibes a little bit from his design. It was like a little dollop of maybe Alan Tudyk. I don't know, like in the face, maybe in the nose.
I just assume generic Hollywood president actor. He's at the age of like 45 to 50. Man. I think that's what you're looking at.
He's fine. Yeah, Jodie's fine. Everyone's fine.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
But man, some of those mechs were badass. How do you feel about the sound?
Oh, Jesus.
I know.
3.
Yeah, I gave it a 5.
Okay. You played this on PlayStation, right?
Yeah. I did.
How was the
levels were not great, but they were much better than what I heard on your stream.
Yeah, how was the audio balance on the PlayStation?
It was.
I heard that
it was good. It was fine.
It is awful on PC. Like that's why it's so low. Like if I had the patched version, which I hear is better, probably would have been like more like a 6 or 7, because it's fine. Like it's some kind of jazz rock midway arcade game, sort of menu music. Like some of this could be in like a racing game, and it would have felt at home. It was, from that era. It
was so stereotypically American electric guitar on any of the menu screens. Just like wow, and you're like, okay, yeah, no, we know what we're doing. We know what's happening.
Yeah, I guess I just mean like if I didn't look at the screen and heard the music and someone said, hey, this is like Cruisin' USA or something, you know, yeah, sure.
Anything that has the title like USA in the video game, I would buy that.
It's got that feel, which is nice. It's appropriate for the subject matter.
Right.
It's got the feel of like, the Dreamcast era, arcade era, like that early aughts video game music soundtrack to a lot of it, with like some other parts of the score, parts of the soundtrack that sort of lean into like the America satire, you know? But
right.
It's all fine. The sound effects, like if they were not these almost like jump scare level of just shrill, sudden like spikes in my audio, like on the PC. When like FromSoft is not known for good PC ports, and this is one of them that...
It was when you found a musician and it did like the loud screeching electric guitar man, that even with it being patched on PlayStation, it was jarring.
There's that, like the jingle or like currency sounds, you know, just like certain pickups, like the bleeps and bloops and jangle of those, like those could be major spikes.
Help!
Yeah, the POWs. A lot of the vocal tracks within missions, like it's all over the place, and like I'd have to look at the original. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is just a remaster issue, if it was more like a PC issue, more so than the console. But you just like, I can only talk about the experience I had, and the experience I had was very not good.
So the only other thing
that
I really had to say about sound, it doesn't do well for sound for me, obviously. But the sound was another one of the reasons that I thought that this was a poorly translated script.
Yeah.
Knowing that it wasn't means that the voice actors didn't do a good job with the script that they were given, which kind of sucks, because it's very like halting. And these are
it's weird
native English speakers voice acting for a English script. And so it just, if you would have told me that this was an English dub of a Japanese game, I would probably give it like a 6.5, maybe, or a 6. But the fact that this is not a dub, this is a full-on English script and produced game. Man, the voices were like, the voice acting was real rough.
The acting is very bad. The quality of everything is bad. Not even just in terms of balance. Like, everybody sounds like they recorded on the other end of like a tin can telephone, or like on a talk boy stuffed under a pillow. Like,
I was gonna say talk boy, actually, yeah.
Everything is like tinny or muted or like muffled or just weird. Because I really liked the weird Funhouse Mirror, like badly written satirical side of the game. Like, sure. The bad voice acting just sort of like fed into that. So like, I wasn't critical. Like, I recognize it's bad. Like, I'm enjoying this as bad movie, as bad game, as, right, you know, like in terms of narrative. So I just like, it was fun to me. It was fun to have the very awkward conversations now made just that more awkward by the halting, weird pauses in weird places, and the intonation that emphasizes the wrong syllable. You know what I mean?
Every time.
Yeah. But it's not good. And the ear-splitting sudden spikes in audio. Some of the things I do really like, though, like just to look at not how it actually is, like in practice, like the execution of it, but just the intent. Like, there's some very funny sound design here. Like, just the incoherent babbling of the U.S. troops.
Yeah.
When like you're fighting a big squadron of troops, it's just like blah 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 blah. And
it's
like,
almost like
interspersed like a mama.
It's almost like the Sims or something. Like they're speaking in Simmese.
A lot of it is sort of like we're satirizing America, but you know, in all good fun. We're not like, we don't hate the place, but then some of them are just like, it makes us look so stupid as like a people, as a culture, and it's so ridicules the military that like at certain times that when that comes through, like, oh yeah, no, this is like a thorough just like
a dismantling of
military culture and this era of America, to just like make them all just like babbling idiots and then just calling out for their mother when they actually say a word that is
the only word you can understand is mother. Yeah.
Some little things like that, like, I thought was very funny. Again, just like bolstering the satirical thrust of the narrative. But really, sound is bad.
Yeah.
It's a 3.
Speaking of fun, you said the word. I gave it a 9.
I did too. I gave it a 9.
Yep. This is a fun fucking game. This is a good,
it is
good
very
time.
Fun. Whether or not you replay anything or return to it, like, you will have a very fun ride through. Just got to be ready for the kind of experience it has. It makes you laugh. It's just like a fun, like a couple days coming off of work. Like, you know what? Sometimes when we're like preparing, like if I got to read a book or something for like preparation of the show, like, oh man, I just worked all day. Like,
right.
Am I ready to sit down and take notes on this? But this one was always like, let off some steam. This is just go.
I'm going to go blow some shit up. Yeah.
And it's fun to like step back. Like, this was the peak era for just like fun, mindless, arcadey experiences. It's a very good one of those. You're going to have a good time. And the only reason it's not a 10, like if you are looking for arcade action, I could have used a little bit more, you know, like they could have done more with this formula. We could have seen a little bit more variation in the missions. Like we mentioned, some of them are kind of mediocre, kind of tedious. I could see where they could have given me more like interesting objectives within missions to do. Like I just love mindlessly running and gunning, but like, okay, after I've just kind of like gone through a level and, you know, looked for all the little bases and exploded them and then maybe fought a mini boss and I'm in and out. Like, okay, we could have, like, there was a lot of variation within that in terms of some of the bosses, but, you know, Armored Core is very good about giving you a lot of different tasks to do in different levels to really like shake things up and keep it interesting throughout. And wanted some more of that, you know? And I wanted a little bit more depth. Like I wanted a fun mindless experience, but a little more depth to the combat. You know, would have been nice.
A skydiving mission would have been cool. A submarine mission would have been cool.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
there's a lot you could have played. There's a lot they could have played with. Just they named a giant assault helicopter after Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay, cool. Like that's just fun. That's just good, clean family fun.
That was very fun. Like, one of my favorite set pieces is one of the phases fighting Richard Hawk. When you first fight him in the mech suit and you're just in this Vegas casino, like on the casino floor, just like zipping around all of these slot machines, and they're just exploding in tokens around you. And you're like, that actually was a very cool, like, that's what I was talking about. Like, you are ducking for cover and getting behind machines and trying to like create openings for yourself through the casino floor to like try and get around the back of him. And it's just like, it's vibrant, it's gold, it's red, it's fun. There were some really good set piece moments. Man, it's fun.
And not to mention, right before that, you take on like a giant helicopter and a giant tank, and like
and once you just start the level and you're fighting them. once you figure out how to like take, again, like there's a lot of really, really cool FromSoft like genetics here. Like, once you figure out that you can take the tank out real fast and then just stand underneath the helicopter and blow it the fuck up, like, the start of that level is real fun, real fast, real easy. And then you get into the shit. Because that's what FromSoft does. Like, they give you a good immediate reward that takes a little bit of skill to learn a pattern. And then they're like, everything you just learned, now it is time to buckle the fuck up. It's going to get weird and rough. And it's got that, what's been referred to as modular difficulty, right? Definitely in the Souls games and Elden Ring, anything else. Like, it's as hard as you want to make it. Like, you can try and play without summons and not level up so much and make it harder on yourself. Or you can just go up there and our patron Frederick put it best, right? FromSoft gives you brick walls. It makes you face a brick wall. And you can bash your head up against it, or you can also use the supplied sledgehammer and just bust your way through. Because FromSoft always has a sledgehammer in the back somewhere. Like, it's the right combination. Like, oh, if you upgrade those bazookas and go in there, it's gonna be over in 30 seconds.
I was gonna say, like,
just get good.
You can try. You can try with assault rifles, like a fucking idiot. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
Or you can walk in with Gatling guns and bazookas.
A no boost playthrough.
Man,
check out,
I cannot.
Beau for,
I am so.
I won't be supplying it.
So mad. Like, I really did unintentionally play on fucking hard mode, and I'm not that guy. Like, I will use summons and, you know, whatever powerful weapons I can find and max them out and summon other players to help me on a hard boss and stuff. I have no shame when it comes to wanting to be, you know, the get good player. But god damn, I'm really just, now that I know that, I'm going to replay it just because now I know that the boost ability is there. Like, I want to see how much of a difference that's going to make. And I bet it's going to be fucking massive.
But yeah, I would recommend this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. In this case, you can't really say source or not because it's like it's a one-off. It is in the Armored Core lineage, but it's not a franchise, although I would love to see them return to this idea.
Yeah.
You know? But if you liked it, if you like this experience and are looking for a little more depth, like, seek out Armored Core. You will have a good time. If you like these mechs, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Right.
There's some good stuff. Like, move on. You know, maybe check out Armored Core 3 if you're looking for something from like a similar time and like a similar aesthetic and era of game design. Yeah, check out From Software. Check out America. I don't know. Would you source America off this? I guess not. I don't know. Maybe you'd want to stay far away. Yeah.
Before we get to thanking our beloved patrons, because it is that time of the month. Don't like that.
Yeah.
We scored this one a 74.5.
Okay.
Sound heard it pretty bad.
Heard it. You know, it does deserve better. This is not a C student. This is a solid B student.
This could have been mid 80s. This could have been one of our highest rated games. It's just that sound really hurt it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So it goes.
Yeah, exactly. What do you do?
What do? You just bring someone on board to fucking balance your sound. Jesus Christ.
No kidding. Damn. They probably just balance the sound with assault rifles instead of machine guns. Like idiots.
It's part of the we're missing the subtext. It's part of the satire. It's a commentary on
maybe it is like
it might be.
they're like, look, I don't know what like I can do a stereotypical like Southern American voice. It's like, man, I tell you what, like they must just listen to that Van Halen and shit. And so it's just like, let's make the electric guitar sound so incredibly jarring that it basically makes the gamer piss themselves.
We all love that scene in Spinal Tap where they, talk about turning up to 11.
Crank it up to 11, yeah.
Just do it. Yeah.
They did. They cranked it up to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is Metal Wolf Chaos. And that is July.
That is America.
That is America until next year when we...
That was America.
Before we get into housekeeping, just letting everyone know, starting in August, we have a very, very cool 2 months.
I'm so excited about this.
We did Beetlejuice for my birthday. So for both August and September, our main feed episodes are going to be focused for Brandon's birthday on the month.
This really isn't fair.
It's not. Maybe next year
You got a Patreon episode. I get, it's my birthday double month.
Yeah, I get 2 full months of main feed episodes, bitches.
It wasn't going to be this. One of my favorite books is Journey to the West. One of the great Chinese novels. Like They have these, a lot of times the number is 4. Sometimes different people will tell you different things, but there are some core classical Chinese novels. I've read 2 of them. They are both some of the best books I've ever read. Journey to the West and also Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Just phenomenal works of literature. So I'm a big fan of the Monkey King. I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, as a lot of American kids did. I guess, was first familiar with some of the aspects of the Monkey King by way of Goku. But because Black Myth Wukong is on the way, it's time to just take that interest of mine as a birthday pick and be ready to do a full exploration of the Monkey King in the lead up to that game.
I'm very excited because most of my experience with the Monkey King comes from him as an archetype of the trickster god.
Right.
Like the Monkey King is where we get a lot of our trickster god archetypes of like Coyote and Anansi and Loki. They all share the same sort of trickstery guideline, which I was a big mythology kid in college. Like that was one of my focuses of study was myth, and I didn't do a lot of Asian mythologies, or at least Eastern mythologies. I focused pretty hard on Western and indigenous mythologies, and I'm really, really excited to play around with this.
It's part of why I'm so excited because, like Americans don't get a lot of exposure to this character. He's much more well known throughout Asia in like there's a Japanese show like Sayuki, and just like as an archetype, or just like media that has adapted the Monkey King story. We're going to get into all this on our episode, but we are going to be exploring it to set the stage for playing the game. So we're starting off with Monkey, which is the abridged version of Journey to the West, which I had never read. I've only read the original, like, English translation. That's like 2,300 pages.
Not happening, bud.
This is a much more manageable. Yeah, our book episodes are already run long. There's no way. But we're starting off with that. Then
I believe then we go to the Forbidden Kingdom.
Yeah, we do.
Which is a movie that not only do I own 2 copies of, but it's a hoot and a half. So that's what we're looking at for August, and
then September we're gonna do a little bit of Dragon Ball,
a little bit of Dragon Ball,
and then Black Myth Wukong. So just so you all, if anyone wants to read along, watch along, play along, that's what we're covering. And then for Patreon, for patrons, July we are doing a Build a Barbecue. I took the reins for this month's Patreon episode. We had a really, really good time and made some really buck wild choices on what we would have at our barbecues. And then in August, we're going to get spooky a little bit.
for in our Patreon episode. So that ought to be really, really interesting and a really good
spooky.
time.
This is not a movie I've ever felt spooked by.
Well, we're doing another Phobia Goria, and it spooks me the fuck out. So, spoilers. And with that, I think we should say thank you to our beloved patrons.
Yeah, speaking of you folks,
we love you very much.
We do. We believe in your justice.
We love you because you are citizens of, I guess, our Patreon.
And the reason is because you joined the Patreon.
Yeah, that.
And the reason is because we're podcasters. We should probably just read the names.
Yeah, go for it. That's fine.
Shout out to Jacob Swindell, Susie Daggs, Joey Bishop, 13th Horseman, and Frederick Viberg Forhog.
Friendship.
Thank you. We love you so much. And with that, a little bit of housekeeping, please contact us at our email, which is sourcenotfoundpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the socials, most of the socials, at Source Not Found Podcast. Check out our YouTube for not only audio of episodes, but also all of the video game playthroughs that we cover of Brandon's delightful Twitch stream.
Yeah, I'm putting this one up over the next few days, so come on by for Metal Wolf action.
I've watched some of it, and it's pretty great. That's where I learned about boosting and machine guns.
Yeah.
Brandon, what are you doing for Twitch coming up?
Doing a whole lot of different stuff. Yeah, a lot of game requests at the moment, and yeah, I mean, really, I got nothing to, like, no clear plans other than I've had followers request games for playing some of those, playing a bunch of different indie games that I missed as I'm finishing up Elden Ring, thinking about like maybe cleansing the palette with a few smaller games before we get into the next big one. But yeah, it's going to be Black Myth Wukong as soon as that drops, and then we'll be in spooky season, so it'll be horror after that. So yeah, just come on by and see what's next. Twitch.tv/LegionBug. Link down in the show notes.
Awesome. I love it. And as always, join us next time. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to check your toilet for clowns and those white vans for Freddy Krueger.
And stay free. And the reason is because freedom.
And the reason is because we believe in your own justice.